It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Welcome to the Hockey Writers Grindline, brought to you by the Morning Skate, the Hockey Writers morning newsletter that is jam-packed with the best hockey stuff on the planet. Sign up today at morningskate.io for free delivery to your inbox Monday through Friday. That's right. The regular season is back and we are back to 5 days a week. Also, drop us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay on top of all of the best Hockey Writers content. I'm your host, Kyle Knopp, and today I'm joined by my two Grindline line mates. Almost screwed myself up there. Devin Little and Logan Horn. Devin, Logan, how are you guys doing on this beautiful Friday evening as we record?
1 week to go.
1 week, not even.
Just one more.
Yeah, not even. Yeah.
Yes, very few sleeps until we start the regular season, which, you know, is probably what's going to be most people's good as we head into this week. So let's talk about our one good and one bad and jump right into our segment. So mine's going to be Red Wings adjacent in the fact that the good is Magnus Hellberg's new setups are beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. The bad is the poor kid probably has pad makers on retainers, because the guy has been a suitcase the past couple of years. So I feel bad for him, but man, is he just got some beautiful artwork in that setup. So I know if Delaney were here joining us, she would be all about him. So
Yeah.
All right, Logan, I'm looking at you first. So what is your good and bad from the week?
I think my good has to be something that just happened in the first regular season game. Tomas Hertl scoring a goal in Prague in his hometown in the Euro series is awesome. The crowd just loving it. You could tell he was super pumped up for scoring that goal. My bad is related to my bad from, I think, 2 weeks ago. Jason Robertson was finally signed, finally extended by the Stars, but they did the worst thing. They signed him to a bridge contract. It's a great deal for the next couple of years. Honestly, very surprised when I saw how low the value was.
Yeah.
But 4 years from now, they're going to have to pay him like 12 million, 13 million. The cap's going up. Like, that's going to be expensive. So they kind of just punted that down the road. Because they're in a cap crisis now with Ben and Seguin's contracts, but feels like they're not really doing themselves any favors. But that's my bad.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 years from now, their owner will feel like he's earned that money finally. So
yeah, true. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's like you said, that will be a huge payday for him in 4 years. So that will be certainly something to keep our eye on out of the Dallas area there. So, all right, Devin, one good, one bad from the past week, my friend.
My one bad is that, like I said, we have 1 week to go. So now we're like getting into that point where it's like, oh, I just want it to be here. We've got these 2 more preseason games coming up, and like it's good because like final push for some of these guys and whatnot. But like also like I'm ready for the season to start. Like let's fast forward a little bit here. And my one good is that just this past weekend I took part in 2 separate fantasy drafts. Logan was with me on one of them.
Saw your teams on Twitter.
Yes, and it's delightful that we finally reached a point where like you don't have to avoid Red Wings like the plague again. Like the Red Wings actually have some good players that are set up to have good seasons, and so it's not like, oh, you picked a Red Wing, good luck. Like
when
Seider
someone
was like Logan's like second or third pick. Like
they no longer have the mandatory representation at the All-Star game.
Exactly.
Some of the Tigers from the past years. Brandon Inge home run derby. Anyone?
Oh geez. Shout out Brandon Inge.
And so do you have a bad as well then, Devin?
Yeah, it's that we're a week out from
that we're
season.
still a week
I want
out.
to be here. Yeah.
Okay. Then it's not quite here. Gotcha. Sorry about that. Well, you bring up a great point, and that's a good segue. The two final games of the preseason. And I actually have a little bit of a luxury in one of the girls I coach. Her dad is Scott Murray, the goalie coach for the Washington Capitals. So he graces our team and helps out with our U14 goalie sometimes. And I was talking with him on Tuesday, and they're ready for the preseason. The Capitals are older team. They're ready for the regular season. The Capitals are older team. So they're kind of like, let's get it going. They don't really care much about the preseason because they have their rosters pretty much set. Not so much in Detroit. All right. So the final two preseason games actually kind of mean something for some of these players. So Devin, I'm going to come right to you. What are you looking for, especially for players battling for a roster spot in these final two games?
I'm looking for a real good push, to put it simply. This ultimately comes down to, right now at least, like two young players that are pushing for roster spots, and I know we'll talk about them more specifically here in a minute. But you want to see those guys, show that they're continue to make progress as they, get more NHL minutes, and that they're ready for it, right? If they can't, kind of like Lucas Raymond last year, like the whole thing was that he didn't leave a shadow of a doubt that he wasn't ready for the NHL. He showed he was, and he gave them no choice. That's what you want to see out of the two young guys we're going to talk about here, is just leave them no choice. And then even for other guys that are kind of like in fringe spots, and some that are surprisingly in fringe spots, you want to see them just look good over these last two games. It's Yzerman wanted competition, right? That's why he signed all those guys in the offseason, and he's got it. This has been a really competitive preseason, a really competitive training camp, and it's pushed some guys up and down the depth chart for sure. And for the guys that seem to be pushed down, it's time to really push and either make a case to climb up the depth chart in Detroit again, or make your case that you have value to teams outside of the Red Wings. So I'm expecting to see two really good games to close out the preseason, especially heading into the regular season opener. And for guys that are, not Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond and Mo Seider, who have their spots all locked up, now's the time to push, and now's the time to look as best as you can, because cuts are coming.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. The competition has been there all offseason, so now it's time for those players to separate themselves to show that they have earned the spot, that they deserve the spot. Absolutely, Devin. Logan, what about you? What are you looking for specifically, especially from the players battling for a roster spot?
Some of the most interesting battles to me are the obvious, the third D pairing on the left side, Edvinsson, Osterley. And like Devin was saying, you just kind of want to see Edvinsson just make it a no-doubter, make it a home run decision to include him. Yeah. Not just include him because he's a little better than Osterley right now, but because he is much better, and you believe that he's better served by playing in the NHL than the AHL. That's what you hope to feel after these two games. And then the other one for me is the center situation with Knopp out for now. Rasmussen has gotten some good looks on the second line when they've had mostly full lineups in some preseason games, which is pretty nice to see. So then it's kind of up to Veleno and Suter to fill out whatever's left once Knopp fills in at 2 and at the 2C and Rasmussen goes down 1. So I'm curious to see who's going to kind of pull away with that spot. It's probably leaning more towards Suter because Veleno is waiver exempt, and there's a little more flexibility in moving him around the roster between the leagues. So that's definitely what I'd expect more, just out of a realistic, the actual struggles that teams go through throughout the year. But who knows? He could show up so strong that they have no choice, and they're just like, yeah, Suter, maybe he's on the wing, or maybe he drops down, or he's just a depth guy that sits in the booth. But yeah, those are the main things I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think a lot more of the depth battles are what we're looking at, especially, these last 2 games. So one person I'm keeping my eye on is Giovanni Smith as well in the game tonight, to kind of see if he can start filling that role. At the end of the last game, he took exception to a shove on his helmet and, stood right up. So I want to see more of that, and want to see him really kind of make a case for himself that the team can't say no to him. So that's kind of what I'm looking for players battling for roster spots. Evan, you alluded to these guys, so let's come. Devin. I'm reading the question as I'm saying it. Devin, you alluded to these guys, so let's come right back to you. Do you think Simon Edvinsson
gotcha.
and Elmer Soderblom have done enough to make the team?
And it is right here
Devin
and right now
Edvinsson.
where I realized that you could just move around the first 2 names, and his name is Devinson. All right. Might be my new favorite player now. All right. Anyways, do I think they've done enough to make the team? I think that they have done just about as much as they could have, given, the scenarios. This is obviously both of theirs first time playing in North America, so you've always got to kind of temper expectations a little bit. But even like with Soderblom specifically, like I know I had him like marked in a Sharpie to start in Grand Rapids. Like I was pretty confident he wasn't going to be in Detroit. And it looks like he has a legitimate, real shot at starting in Detroit, and good for him if he pulls it off. So has he done enough? I think he's given the coaching staff and the management a lot to think about, and that's as much as you could have hoped for from a player that, like I said, you kind of expected to start in the AHL. And then Edvinson's kind of a different case, because unlike Soderblom, we all more or less expected that he was going to get an NHL spot.
Yeah.
And with that comes a different set of expectations. I think that Edvinsson has showed well for himself. I think that you can tell that he's got sky high potential, but you can also tell that he's got some things to figure out, and he's still very much a player that is learning. I think that it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if he started in the AHL, but I also think that like I said, with the potential and just the talent that he's shown in the preseason, it might just be worth it just to start, developing him as an NHL player. So I think they've done enough in the sense that they've shown their skill sets, they've shown what they can bring to the lineup. It's just a matter of how they fit and whether or not management and the coaching staff basically determines that it makes sense for them to be in the NHL rather than the AHL, because like I said, I think they have made good cases for themselves.
Excellently said there, Devin. I mean, the expectations were absolutely different for both of these guys. We all thought Edvinsson was solidified on that left side. We all thought Soderblom was going to be in the AHL probably with another year, maybe half a year, until he needed to come up and really get that NHL experience. And they've kind of reversed those roles and what you would have expected from them out of the preseason, which is great for Soderblom and their offensive, the Red Wings offensive development. And maybe it lends to the fact that the expectations were way too high for Edvinsson to begin with. So, it's just kind of take a step back and look at the whole picture and see where they fit. But I think you're absolutely right, Devin. I think Soderblom has proven that he could be NHL ready, and Edvinsson has shown that maybe he does need a little more time to develop at the AHL level, but has the skill set in which, if they wanted to or needed to based on injuries, he absolutely could step in that third pairing and get that, slow development at the big level. All right, Logan, let's get your thoughts on Simon Edvinsson and Elmer Soderblom. Have they done enough to make the team? Are you seeing the same things that Devin just brought up in terms of the expectations being set differently for each player?
Oh, absolutely. Soderblom, I didn't think there was a chance he'd make the NHL squad as recently as prospect camp. I didn't think there was a chance. Expectations were pretty tempered for someone coming across first year North America, like you said, Devin. Expected that transition to be hard, but sometimes players' games translate well, and it seems to have done that for Elmer. I think that Soderblom has done everything you could ask aside from like a Lucas Raymond preseason where you're like, he's going to be on the top line. Because all that you really need from Soderblom, like exceeding expectations, he basically passed every other forward prospect in Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
He surpassed Berggren at least at this moment. People would think of him a little bit higher. He has a higher chance of making the team. That's huge. So I think he's done more than enough to prove that he's at least the best forward prospect in the Red Wings system in Michigan currently. I don't know if that makes sense.
There you go.
But I think if he doesn't make the squad, he's a very, very early call up. Yeah, he's going to do great. I'm not sure where public opinion is on Edvinsson at the moment because preseason's been a roller coaster. Like the first preseason game, so many people were like, okay, yeah, Edvinsson's going to be in the AHL for like a year, maybe more, but it's going to be okay. And then after the second game, people were like, wow, Calder Trophy? I don't know. So I don't know where everyone's at with that right now. But personally, I think Edvinsson is an NHL defenseman, maybe a 6'7" guy right now. I think he'll give you serviceable play. He'll play better than Osterley or Haig on the back left there. I believe that fully. However, this is a league of prospects and development. And if you think that he will develop better playing a few months, playing a year in Grand Rapids, absolutely do that. I don't think that's going to harm him at all. If the staff thinks that that's what's best, I support it. I think he's done enough. I think the competition is thin enough that he'll make the NHL squad as well, but there's always that choice.
I think you put it great. It's the organization's choice between allowing him to play 20, 25, 30 minutes a night in the AHL versus playing, 5 to 8 a night, maybe 12 in the NHL. If he gets some power play time or penalty kill time as well. But I think you're absolutely right in terms of the development league. No need to rush him. He certainly can play it a couple of months, a year down in the AHL, like you said, and have no harm to the development of his game, or even probably to his maturity or psyche as a player, just because he is so young. And I think he understands that the game is a lot different over here on smaller ice than what he was used to in the SHL. So excellent points, gentlemen. Let's move on. And I want to talk about players that have disappointed during the preseason. And Logan, I'm going to start with you. Were there any Red Wings players that disappointed?
Well, I'm a little disappointed that Ivan didn't stick with the team, but that's a little bit of a minor thing. The one that just stands out to me, kind of mentioned him earlier, Jonathan Berggren. Not a disappointment per se, but I just wanted a little more from him. He's had some good moments for sure, and I'm still pretty high on him. Just to let Soderblom come in and swoop in and take that top spot, I think is a little bit of a bummer. I know. Well, we knew that the depth was so much stronger this year with all the free agents added. So it was going to be hard for Berggren to make the team no matter what, but the route is even harder now. So he's got to take another step if he wants to make it really at any point this season, because like you said, Giovanni Smith, Soderblom, like there's some good depth guys that I think would probably get the look before him. So he's got to show that he deserves that spot more than them. And I don't think he has this preseason, but there's plenty of time for him to prove that still.
Yeah, Logan, you're right. I mean, let's not say disappointed, but he has definitely been underwhelming this preseason. I expected a lot more out of him after leading Grand Rapids in scoring last year. I thought Berggren was going to come in and really make a case for himself this preseason, and Soderblom's kind of jumped ahead of him, like you said. And his path is much harder, and he's been kind of I don't want to say disappointment, but he just hasn't been as exhilarating as we thought he might be. So that leads me to ask you then, Devin, is this train getting off the rails? Are there any players that have disappointed you during the preseason?
Pat, if you're watching, don't worry. The train keeps rolling all night long. It just might be a little bit delayed. But
there's sheep on the tracks.
Exactly. It's okay though. If he ends up in Grand Rapids, I'm excited to watch him. A player that has disappointed me, honestly. Well, I'm gonna give two answers here. One, I'm just like a little bit disappointed that we haven't seen Andrew Copp play, and that's not like any fault of his own, right? That's not like a bad on him. It's just and we kind of talked about this a week or two ago. We don't have like a real idea of what the lineup looks like because we haven't seen Copp in it. Right. So as much as like, we talk about Rasmussen being a 2C or a 3C or a 4C, it's like he could be any of those things because it Copp's like the big variable here that we haven't nailed down. But an actual player whose play has actually disappointed me, it's got to be Pius Suter. The reason why, and this kind of goes back to a month or so ago when Kyle, you brought him up as a make it or break it guy. And I still stand by what my thoughts were back then, where he's made it. He doesn't like he's an NHL player, but all of a sudden he definitely looks like he's kind of a spare part on this team.
Yeah.
And that's crazy because he was the 2C last year. How do you go from being the 2C to a spare part? And it's one of those things where it's as much an effect of players climbing up the depth chart as it is him just staying stagnant or even falling down a little bit. But this is a player who, like I said, he's an NHL player. He is, but you expected I expected him to be like the legitimate 3C this year, and now it looks like that's Rasmussen. Great for Rasmussen. That's what you hope for when you drafted him. But Suter's making not a ton of money, but he's making money to play in the middle six, and it looks like he's a fourth line player on this team as of right now. So I said this last week. My hot take is that he's getting traded within the first month. I still say that's a hot take, but I think he's not long for this team anymore because just too many other guys have either passed him or are knocking on the door, like Jonathan Berggren.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Devin. Pius has just kind of been the one player that's slowly finding his way out of the mix, and to no fault of his own. It's not that he's a bad player, but like you said, there's just other players fitting in with this system and that are outperforming him right now. And it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem, and it's showing that Detroit is heading in the right direction to go from having your second line center last year become a guy that, if he were to disappear from the roster, not many people would probably miss him at this point. No offense to him. But right now he hasn't made that much of an impact. All right. Well, with that, we are going to head off on the rush. And Devin, I'm coming to you first. Will Sebastian Cossa make his Red Wings debut this season?
Ooh. No, I'm going to say no.
All right, Logan.
I'm going to say yes because it would be fun. He'll play one game, but it'll be sad because there'll be a bunch of injuries for it to happen. I don't know. That's the only way it'll happen.
I'm going to say he will get a game, and not necessarily just because of injuries. I think they're going to bring him up once or twice just to see what he can do. All right. Logan, you kind of already alluded to this question earlier, so I'm going to come to you first. Does Joe Veleno make the opening night roster?
No, I don't think he does. I think he deserves it a little bit, but Adam Ernie looks like he's on the roster, so I guess Veleno's probably going to get bumped out.
What? Adam Ernie, 50 goals from Logan? Huh?
Oh, no.
No, 35.
This again.
35.
Write that down.
Devin, Veleno, opening night roster?
Can you ask me this question again after tonight's game?
I can.
I'm gonna say he. I don't know, man. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say he does, and I'll just be kind of optimistic and say he does. It'll be probably 4C, but yeah.
I wanted to say yes, and then Logan made me realize he is waiver exempt, and that kind of makes a lot of sense with how this team is structured right now. So I think sadly I'm gonna say no because of that, and because of that only. All right, well, we're going to take a breath and reset the show. This is The Grind Line. I'm Kyle Knopp here with Devin Little and Logan Horn, and we're talking Red Wings hockey. Before we get back into it, we want to remind you to sign up for the Morning Skate, a morning newsletter delivered to your inbox Monday through Friday, jam-packed with the best hockey stuff on the planet. It's a daily dose of the latest NHL news, rumors, history, funnies, quizzes, and more. Just a little hockey fun and information delivered to you for free from the Hockey Writers every morning. Morningskate.io. Sign up today. All right, back to the show. We are finalizing our player previews today with two big guns, shall we say. So let's start it off. Logan, I'm going to come to you first. Tyler Bertuzzi had his career best season last year. So what does a follow-up look like? A good follow-up, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of ways it could look.
Yeah. Let me close that question a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think a successful year for Bertuzzi sees all trade rumors, trade talks disappear. I've come around a bit. I don't think there's a chance he's traded just because scoring forwards are worth almost nothing on the trade market these days. Like in the last 9 months, there's been a bunch of crazy trades for good players for nothing. So I don't think he would be worth that much. So I think he's staying, but for the rumors to go away, for people not to ask it anymore, for people not to want him gone anymore, that is what it looks like. For him to get there, he just has to show it wasn't a fluke last year, which I don't think it was, but score maybe another 30 goals if he has a full season, lock in his spot on that top line, because, you know, that top line was excellent. And it was a surprise, at least with Raymond there, just like showing up as a rookie and succeeding. So supporting that line, supporting his line mates' continual growth. And also, I think the biggest thing is signing a contract extension.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing for him.
I would agree with that. So, everything to your point, Logan. I think the biggest thing is him staying healthy and staying consistent. So would love to see him score 30 plus goals again. Would even love to see him get 35 plus if we could, or increase his assist total with Larkin and or Raymond, cashing in on some of those goals. But I think he needs to remain consistent, continue to stay healthy and play a whole full season, but still play gritty, still play his sandpaper style. And I think if he can do all of those things, he will get rid of those trade rumors, because the team's not going to want to get rid of them. So, all right, Devin, asking you now, Tyler Bertuzzi. What year are we in?
We can talk about him too if you want. But
Tyler Bertuzzi had his career best season last year. What does a good encore look like? I'm still stuck in 2008, if you can't tell. You know?
That's right.
Oh man, did they just make that trade with the Panthers? So a good season for Bertuzzi. I agree with Logan. I think if the best case scenario, best season for Bertuzzi squashes all the trade rumors, because he just kind of shows that like this team can't not have him on the team. And I honestly think that the best way to determine that is the case is if he ends up wearing a letter at some point, because your leaders are usually your like the most important members of the team for one reason or another. They don't have to be like the most productive players, but like they're a key part of the locker room. And I think that if Bertuzzi is wearing a letter, I think that means something. Especially with, when we talked about this 3 or 4 weeks ago, Kyle, you had mentioned that like he doesn't seem like there've been some things in recent memory that maybe make him not a good candidate for a letter. Well, if he wears a letter this year, then I think that maybe water under the bridge, right?
Yeah.
And to that point, I think that a big thing that's going to help him have a good year this year, and maybe even a better year, is the fact that he should be able to play in Canada this year. Yay, right?
Yay.
But I think that just a lot of what Logan said. I think maintaining, if not improving on what he did last year, he's in his prime right now.
Yeah.
He's got to play like it. I don't think you can ask for like a whole lot more, because when you're in your prime, that means you're at the top. But he's got more talent on the team than he's maybe ever had as a Red Wing. So maybe you see his numbers increase just by that. And then also I just want to see him I just want to see him continue to be Tyler Bertuzzi. There's no one on this team, maybe outside of like David Perron, that plays the way Tyler Bertuzzi plays, and that's what makes him such an indispensable part of this lineup. He's a hockey player. That is the type of game he plays. He is a hockey player. And as long as he continues to have that sandpaper, have that offensive skill, and throw himself in front of pucks in the defensive zone, he's going to make himself the indispensable part of the lineup that then warrants the extension. I still think, just because until he signs an extension, basically, that the trade talk will be out there. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. But he can silence a lot of people if he has as good of a season, if not better. Than he had last year.
Yes, he can. Getting a letter would also be, like you said, a huge, not only sign that it's water under the bridge and whatnot, but also a sign of maturity in him over the past couple seasons and becoming a new leader and proving to this new coaching staff that he is deserving of this to lead this team. So I think you're absolutely right there, Devin. I believe it was Keith Gave who might have said it when we had him on. Maybe it was Ken Cal talking about just what Bertuzzi brings to this team as terms of the heartbeat of the team and the soul of the team. And, and
is there courage?
He's got that courage, that sandpaper. Like you said, he is a hockey player's hockey player. And so he needs to play within himself, and the points will come because he gets to the dirty areas, and he's got, like you said, a lot of talent, the most talent he has had around him. And so I think that's a big step in the right direction. Another player that has the most talent around him, probably since he's joined the team, is Dylan Larkin. So Devin, coming over to you first. What are you hoping to see out of Larkin this season?
See, this whole player preview series, I've tried to temper expectation maybe a little bit and try to, not set the bar too high. And now here we are with Larkin. Here's what my expectations are for Dylan Larkin. My expectations are that he has a career best season, straight up. He's playing for a contract that's as much motivation as you need in the NHL. And he's, like you said, he's got maybe the most amount of talent he has ever had around him, maybe except for his rookie year when Datsuk and Zetterberg were still there. He's now, the top center. He's arguably still their best forward. He's never had more than 73, I'm pretty sure, at his points.
Yeah.
See him crack 80. Get a point per game, because a lot of the reason why people talk about him as just an elite 2C instead of a 1C is that he's never had a point per game season. He's come really close before, but if he can get that hit that 80-point plateau, I will hear none of that he's an elite 2C stuff, because at that point he's proven he can be a 1C and he can produce like it too. On top of that, I want to see him just continue to make a difference in all areas of the ice. Larkin's not a McDavid type that puts up 120 points a season. He is a Patrice Bergeron type that puts up about a point per game, but also makes a difference over in the other end of the rink and is the leader of the team. I want to see him do his best Patrice Bergeron impression this year. And I want to see him continue to develop chemistry with Lucas Raymond. I want to see him develop chemistry with Elmer Soderblom if he happens to come up into the lineup. I want to see him just continue to be the Red Wings' most important forward, because while Lucas Raymond has sky-high potential and will likely be this team's top forward in like a year or two, if not this season, Larkin is the straw that stirs the drink for this team. If we've seen many of times over the last 2 years what happens to this team when Larkin isn't in the lineup. So he needs to continue to show he's the most important player. And this is the season he's really, 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 really got to produce like it too.
I don't have any words. I really don't, Devin. That was fantastic. And you have cracked the code because that is absolutely everything that needs to happen this season. Logan, I'm going to make you follow that up. What are you hoping to see out of Larkin this season?
Well, on a similar point to Devin's, it feels like, it's crazy how soon this has happened, but it feels like Raymond or Seider could be considered the best player on the team as soon as this season. But I think what Larkin needs to do is make sure he is still the most important player. As a leader, as an excellent two-way player, I think that's just something he needs to strive for, is to just maintain that value to the team. He's not going to be the top point scorer for every year because Lucas Raymond is pretty good. I don't know if you guys you guys have heard. Yeah, that's right. Choo-choo. But I think there's still room to grow offensively. I don't think he needs to grow for this to be a very successful season offensively. I think even just maintaining the gains of the last few years, where now it feels very consistent. It's not like his first 70+ point year. It was like, wow, out of nowhere. But this was earned. This was well deserved, these points. No flukes there. And I'd love to see him kind of reintroduce a little bit more of the defensive game that he showed earlier in his career. It's a lot harder when you're on the first line and you're meant to lead the team. It's a little harder to do that against excellent competition. But he can do it. He got a couple Selke votes a few years ago, like just a couple, not a lot. But I'd love to see him get a vote, and not from a Detroit writer, because that doesn't feel as good. But you never know. I'll still take it. And another thing, like Devin said, he needs to support Raymond, who feels just like ready to explode. You never know. This year could be the one he bursts and hits point per game and gets 70 something 80 points, and Larkin will be a huge part of that, as likely his center for the entire season. So just maintaining that chemistry, building on it, being a part of the solution on the power play is huge. I guess that goes for Bertuzzi as well. Being a part of the solution and helping fix it and make it better, it would just be huge. Like, it would be a massive bonus for this team that desperately has needed help on all special teams everywhere for a long time. I don't know. I might have just said everything that Devin said over again, so I don't know if that was really helpful. But
sounded different to me.
Thank you.
For what it's worth, I'm just hoping to see Larkin remain consistent and to remain playing the game that he has played throughout his whole career. Like you said, Logan, more of the 200-point or 200-foot type game. Oh my gosh. Let's not throw that out there. More of the 200-foot game. And Devin, like you said, he's got a lot of weapons around him. And as long as he's working and building that chemistry, those points are going to come. So I'd love to see him, at least remain consistent around his point production. But because of how much better the Wings got, his point production should just increase automatically. And I think he can easily get to that, 80, 82, 85 points on the season. He doesn't have to lead the team in points. In fact, I'd actually rather he not lead the team in points. But I want him to still be there producing. And like you both said, being that catalyst for this team, not only on his line, but throughout the lines up and down that roster. All right. So I think we're all saying the same thing when it comes to Dylan Larkin. So with that, we're off on the next rush. So with these questions, who do I want to come to first? Let's go Logan. Who leads the team in assists for the Wings this season?
Mo Seider.
Ooh, okie dokie. Devin?
Do like the Seider call out.
I do like the Seider call out.
Yeah, I'll say Seider. My first thought was Larkin, but I like Seider.
Yeah, I'm just so we don't have a little difference there. I'll go Larkin. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. But that could be a real toss up with a lot of guys.
Seider gets 60 points this year. That's my prediction.
Okay,
good prediction.
58 of them are assists.
That's generous. 59.
59.
I hope he scores more than one goal this season.
I was gonna say this dude is not shooting the puck this year. He's just moving it.
If shooting percentage is 0 because he took 0 shots all year and had 60 points, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
All right, Devin, which team will be Detroit's biggest rival this year?
Ooh, that's like the Ottawa Senators.
Ooh, Logan.
That's a really good one. Just to differentiate, I'll go with the Buffalo Sabres.
Ooh. All right. I asked this question. I didn't even really think about it. I'm gonna go. I think it's the year that things get really heated with the Maple Leafs.
Okay. I
think for whatever reason, I just think this is the year. All right. Well, if we have. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. For what it's worth, things are always heated when they play the Lightning too, for whatever reason. So I expect that to continue.
Yeah, that was kind of toward the top of my head as well. But for whatever reason, the Maple Leafs are just yelling at me right now. So,
yeah.
Who's Seider going to punch?
Could be many, many, many of them.
Yeah.
Michael Bunting, of course, right?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Well, you can't hit the elderly, Devin. All right. Well, leave your thoughts below. Who you think the Wings will get it on with the most in terms of rivalry this season. And if we haven't convinced you with our first 2 plugs, sign up for the Morning Skate, the hockey morning newsletter delivered to your inbox on Monday through Friday. That's right. The regular season is here and we are back to 5 days a week, meaning the Morning Skate is the perfect way to start your day. That's it for this edition of The Grind Line. From all of us here at the Hockey Writers and our team here on The Grind, we will see you next week.